Hello everyone and welcome to a new episode of Careers Talks. Today I have Tufumi. Tufumi double majored in mathematics and computer science at the New York University of Abu Dhabi. Now Tufumi is working as a software engineer in the financial industry in London. Before that he worked for a year as a software engineer in Twitter, and he did a couple of internships during university. So I think there's a lot to share with students about your career. And you also did a shift in your career in London. So I would like to know a bit more about that. How was the process? But what I would always like to start my episode is the question of why did you choose computer science and mathematics? What factors affected that choice in terms of like family or back home in Nigeria, your school? Like what motivated you to choose computer science?
Well, thank you for having me,
Of
first of
course.
all. So for me, CS kind of came out naturally in a sense. Actually, when I got to uni, I was actually caught between two options: computer engineering, computer science. But it was always in that CS space, and it comes from the fact that like I I I come from almost like a family of software engineers.
Nice.
So it was a thing. It was I was introduced to it quite early and all of that, and like it just piqued my interest really early in life.
Nice.
And so I always wanted to start a startup, and so when it came to uni, I knew that okay, I wanted to do software engineering. But then it was obviously, I think for many people into software, then comes the question, okay, do I want to do computer science or computer engineering? And what it came to in uni was really just like the opportunities available to computer scientists versus computer engineers. Like in my uni at the time, and our uni actually, like we had the global studies program, so there was like an opportunity to get internships in junior year, with US companies, which I thought was really important. And I guess we'll probably touch on it more, but I actually feel like getting an internship in college is really
Help
crucial. Yeah.
shape that decision.
Exactly. So it was just like I felt there were more opportunities out of college and within college for computer scientists versus computer engineers. So
Makes sense.
that's why I chose CS. And the math thing was just like I wanted to challenge myself, and
Nice.
so I wasn't the greatest at math in secondary school. I mean, I was decent. I wasn't crazy. And so I was like, you know what? It's college. Let me push myself. And
Nice.
so I decided to major in math.
Nice. I think it's also it supplements computer science.
It does.
There's a lot of operations that you have to do when it comes to writing software that are heavily mathematic. So it definitely supplements what you do. That's a good introduction to why you chose CS. And then you said you did the internship. So was the internship a critical factor of why you chose software engineering in terms of a career? Or were there any other factors that told you, okay, as a career after I graduate, I want to be a software engineer? Or was that also linked to the decision of computer science, people in the family studying?
Yeah, so I'd say it was a mix of everything. For me, like I feel the internship more so solidified it, but it also kind of like for me it was a pointer to like what type of environment I would like to be in, working as a software engineer. So I what I really liked about my internship is that my team was like small and focused, right? And it almost felt like a startup vibe. Anybody could come in and chip in an idea and it could be taken. So I knew that
So
was...
is that the one at Goldman or Flutterwave in back home?
So I'd say the first one at Flutterwave.
Okay.
Yeah, the first one at Flutterwave, that was it. Was like it was a really small team. It was a startup, and it was just like that. You could come in, you could do anything you want really, as long as you're driving the business forward. So I knew that like when I graduated, eventually I wanted to be in an environment where I would have like a lot of like hands-on, responsibility
Nice.
in the company.
Nice.
Yeah.
What would be useful also? Walk us through your experiences and like very briefly, what did you do in each internship and how did it contribute to where are you now?
Cool. Yeah. I mean, okay, so my internship experience starts from so I took a gap year before college. And so that was my first internship at Flutterwave, and that I worked as an intern. I would brand it because back then
it's different, especially when you're a school student.
Yeah.
You're not like, they probably don't give you, I don't know about what was the case in Flutterwave, but in general, like when you're a school student, like the tasks you're given are not that directly impacting the operations or something. They test you in a way, and then based on that, like, yeah.
Yeah, 100%. So that was it. Like you know, there wasn't much to it. There wasn't a firm title, and they had just started, I think, like 6 months before. I didn't actually know at the time, but yeah, they had just recently started. So I was just more so learning than anything. So they gave me a bunch of languages and frameworks to learn.
Nice.
And that was my experience. So there I learned Node.js and back-end development as well as front-end development.
Nice.
And then when I came back to them in the after my freshman year of uni, there I was working more as a proper engineer, but I was also doing like proper engineering as well as business development, because they had me, you know, liaising with a lot of their clients and you know, finding out okay, what is it that a client will potentially need. As like, because what Flutterwave does, by the way, is they're a payment provider. So they were like, okay, what is it that clients would potentially need in this payment space?
Makes sense.
And then yeah, so that really kind of set the focus for, okay, this type of company I actually want to work in. And then when junior year of college, so sophomore year, I was working on my own projects. And then junior year of college, I went to Goldman. There I worked in a team called Conflicts and Business Selection. So basically they have
was in New York.
In New York, but because of COVID, I worked remotely.
Nice.
Yeah. And there I was basically building, they have this software internally that tracks conflicts of interest requests. So I was just working on that software. At that time, they were trying to build out a mobile app. So, you know, I worked on that, both the front end and a couple of weeks on the back end. And then after Goldman, I got like, my Goldman experience, I mean, at the end of the day, I was an international student, so visa issues. And so I got a full-time offer, but, you know, it was in New York. I couldn't get a visa. So I ended up reapplying, and I applied, and I got into Twitter. And so I worked for Twitter for a year and 3 months, just before the Elon takeover. And yeah, I mean, at Twitter, I was working on a product called Quick Promote. And Quick Promote is basically the top of the funnel ads product for advertisers who want to come and advertise on Twitter, essentially. So if you become a professional user, if you see the promote button, that was what my team was working on, and the interface behind it.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
So basically B2B solution for anyone who wants to advertise on Twitter.
Exactly.
Makes sense.
So like small businesses more so.
Nice. Yeah. You said like you, as an international student, you faced that challenge of shifting from New York to London, and I'm assuming also applying to jobs in London wasn't very, very straightforward and direct.
Wasn't straightforward at all.
Can you tell us more about that, and how did you land that job at Twitter? Not in terms of interview process, but in terms of how did you find the job and your application strategy? Like a bit more about that, please.
So I was actually very, very unsuccessful in my applications to companies in London. But what happened? So I got 3 interviews. I applied to probably over 80, 90 companies.
80, 90.
One of them was at Bloomberg. One of them was at Palantir, and then the last one was with Twitter. But yeah, it's just like conversion rate was not good,
which is the case with a lot of people. Like you apply to 100, you get interviews from 5, final interviews from 3 if you did pretty well, or 2, and then you get the job from 1, 2 if like that's the So I think you were successful if you got from these 3 like interviews from these 3.
I mean that was it really. And yeah, I wouldn't say I have like a path to success. I'd say probably the one I was successful with Twitter, I actually came in from a referral from a college alum. So he had actually sold, or he was part of a startup that got acquired by Twitter.
Nice.
And so like, you know, he posted on a university page, and I was just like, yo, I really need a job.
Nice.
And yeah, so he put in a referral for me. I got interviews, and yeah, that's how
That's
it went.
pretty good, yeah. And then I think a good advice from your experience is apply in like a mass volume and pretty early on. And the more you apply, the earlier you apply, the higher are your chances, especially as an international student.
100%. And if I could add, like,
Please.
one more thing I'd say is, don't just put in an application online.
Uh-huh.
Like, actually, because I had to actively reach out to recruiters. I was like disturbing recruiters on LinkedIn, right? So I feel like that was a much more like promising option, if that makes sense. Yeah.
To get like a graduate job.
To get a graduate job. Because the truth is, like, the competition for graduate jobs is ridiculous. Like, because everyone from every university is looking to come to a Twitter or an Amazon, you know, a reputable company. So you need to do anything that you can, really, just to get your foot through the door. You just need them to read the resume, really.
Yeah, that's true.
And
specifically at a city in London where you already have international students studying here.
Yep.
And then the local students, and then international students from other locations, like my case or your case, who wants to end up in a financial hub or cosmopolitan city like London. And quickly, can you tell us, like, what did you tell recruiters? Like, hey, like, what was your approach when reaching out to a recruiter?
So I actually had a single message format that that a friend of mine sent to me, and I think it was something along the line of, hey, I'm really interested in applying to this company. You know, these are my credentials. I've worked so and so. Would you be available for a quick call?
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. That's good.
To explore the options. Yeah.
Okay. That's a good strategy. So you started working at Twitter. Can you like what like to know more about is the interview process, basically. What was the first step, second step, etc., and how did you prepare for each of these stages?
Definitely. So Twitter was for my Twitter interviews, it was purely coding and then one behavioral. So I had one pre-round, then I had one coding assessment, 2 on-site coding interviews, and then 1 behavioral interview, if I remember correctly.
On-site as in you have to be in the London office?
Oh, on-site is like
as
Zoom.
Okay.
But I was actually talking to a person.
A live interview.
A live interview.
Makes sense. Makes sense.
Yeah.
And then, so the pre-round was just a technical coding assessment?
Yeah, it was technical. It was HackerRank.
HackerRank assessment.
Yeah,
and I'm assuming to prepare for those, you need to code on LeetCode, or what resources did you use?
So it's the standard, and I feel for pretty much probably all tech jobs. Yes, it's LeetCode. At the time, I only used LeetCode. I'll talk more after I transitioned away from Twitter. But for Twitter, I purely use LeetCode. I think at the time I tried to target 300 LeetCode 300. So what my strategy was for LeetCode was go through all the easy questions. And then start to tackle the medium ones. I never actually finished the easy questions, but I got up to a point that I was like, okay, I don't need to do any more easy questions.
That level,
right? Yeah. And because a lot of people want to jump straight into the mediums, but you actually need to start with the easies, right? And so go through the easies, go through the medium, and then I think I did like maybe 1 or 2 hard questions, and that was it.
Nice. And for the on-site live interview, was also like, how long was it? Was it purely coding or?
Yeah, so on-site live interviews was also purely coding. I think it was like an hour long. Each, yeah.
Nice.
So and then obviously there was 1 behavioral round. And for the 1 behavioral round, I think it's probably one of the last chapters of it's this cracking the coding interview, right? So one of the last chapters of cracking the coding interview is on how to tackle behaviorals, and I think that's actually solid. Like it tells you to like draw up a grid or something, because Twitter does this thing called top grading where they'll actually go in depth for all your experiences. So that just read that last chapter. Like, it tells you what to do.
Nice.
It's
so
solid.
for whoever's interested, probably that's your top recommendation as a resource.
Yep.
Nice. For the listeners interested in working at Twitter, or graduates who want to apply, can you tell them what was like? How did the day in the life look like? In terms of how much did you code, the meetings, work-life balance, etc.
Yeah, I mean, it's unfortunate that what I'll be talking about is Twitter 1.0, because I have no idea how it works after Elon.
Makes sense.
But at the time it was like very relaxed, and it also was almost like there was a sequence. So when I first came in, I'd say I probably spent 90% of the day just like purely coding, purely like just learning the stack, because Twitter has actually a very unique tech stack. So it's based on Scala. Like it has like a lot of internal tools. I think you'll probably see that a lot at big tech companies.
So it's tech stack as in like technical language used, or okay.
So just the language used, the frameworks used, and all of that. So generally I feel like at big companies, like they have internal tools that they use most of the time. So yeah, at Twitter it was much of the same. So we had like a lot of internal tools, and so first few months was just really just
learning these tools. Makes sense.
And then as I became more experienced in these tools, then it was more of, okay, we're gonna give you a full feature to build end to end, like, you know, tackle it. I think the first one I built was coupons. So it was like you know, advertisers that come in, we want to give them $5 or something on their first thing. How do we build that? And so that then became a lot of, okay, we need to interact with this team, we need to interact with that team. You know, it was more setting up meetings, figuring out, coming to a consensus with those teams, and then, you know, and then coding. So then I'd say coding became like probably 75% of what I do, 70 to 75%.
In the coupons project. And then 25% was more so, you know, talking to other teams and getting consensus from them and all of that. And, you know, then, you know, the next product I think I worked on was notifications. And by the way, throughout this time, like, it wasn't just me driving these projects. It was me and a good friend of mine called Robert, and like we'd pair on most of these projects. So Twitter had a big thing on, like, you know, pairing and like, doing teamwork stuff exactly as a team. And so, yeah, and then after that, we worked on notifications, and notifications was more of the same. I'd say notifications probably required more communication with other teams. So then I'd say the amount of time I spent writing code was probably close to 65, 70, you know, % of the time. And then, yeah, the other part was meetings. Nice. So there was this aspect of talking to user interface, UX, UI,
exactly,
product managers who want to launch this feature from a business perspective and trying to work with you to build that feature. And
then other teams responsible for like different, because at the end of the day, like I feel like big tech companies, you pretty much have a team for everything. So, you know, there was a team that actually managed sending notifications to Twitter apps. On the funny enough, it was two teams. One sent notifications to the app on like when you open the app, and the other sent push notifications. So, you know, when you
like
just
the alerts,
exactly. And those are two separate teams.
Wow.
And then there was another team that worked on for advertisers when we want to send them ads. So like you just need to coordinate with many different teams to get something done.
Yeah, for the people who want to work in a tech company, I think that's a good thing to know. Is that literally like every single detail, whether it's the inbox, that's like I'm assuming that's a team, or the homepage, and even aspects of the homepage like live videos or text, like each has their own team. So maybe it's that's when you want to read about the company, know more about these. So probably when the questions come, they might touch on these different parts so that you're familiar with how things work. And then when it came to shifting to the financial industry, what additional skills are you learning, and what like aspects you think are missing compared to tech?
I'm learning. I feel like right now I'm learning a lot about how finance works, and that sounds really abstract, but I'll break it down. Like it's a lot about how the systems that we use every day actually work on a granular level. So for example, how money moves from, you know, if you send a bank transfer, like how that actually works. Why is it slow to make international transfers? Like, you know, what is like a specific type of trade? What's that used for? And stuff like that. So I feel like I'm learning at a low level, like how money moves, how money works, and like how financial systems work. I'd say. And what do I miss from working at a tech company? You know, I said I wanted to be closer to the metal, but sometimes I miss having, you know, I miss being able to just
Everything's
say,
set up,
yeah,
organized. Yeah.
yeah, just say like, yeah, this team handles this. It's not my business.
It's not, okay.
Now it's like everything's your business.
The infrastructure, you're probably doing more
Yeah.
data engineering, which is like preparing the data for it to be used in the application you're building or the software you're building.
Definitely, yeah. So
Makes
it's more so a full stack experience. Like you're touching everything from end to end.
How did you say, okay, now is the time to make that move? I think you touched on that,
Yeah.
but more about the challenges, if you can.
So, funnily enough, like I feel like when you're already in the country, it's a lot easier to transition than when you're out.
Makes sense.
And it's something I didn't even know, like up until like I was like, okay, maybe I'm ready to apply. Because what happens is that I think you simply turn on LinkedIn, open to work, and you get a flood of recruiters.
Yeah.
And so it makes the process a lot easier. So like that's why like I'm so impressed for when I'm talking to new grads, like just get in first.
Yeah.
Because
yeah.
once you're in, like it's a lot simpler
Easier.
after that.
Makes
So
sense.
yeah, so for me, like actually applying out of Twitter was much simpler. Like I had a great headhunter reach out to me, and he like, you know, put me in touch with companies, and I had companies also reach out to me directly.
Nice.
And yeah, so that was it.
Like a recruiter, basically. And how much effort did it really take? Because from what you're saying, it seems to be like a smooth process. So how much of it was you reaching out, and how much of it was people reaching out?
So I'd say, funny enough, at this point, it was at the point I transitioned away from Twitter, it was more so 50-50.
Wow.
Like
okay.
in fact, I'd even push like 60-40, because like towards the end of my time at Twitter, it's not like I was very pressed to leave. Like I was like I was entertaining the idea of leaving.
I
Right?
get you.
And then, you know, then I started getting recruiters hitting me up, and it was like, oh,
Okay, why
yeah,
not give
why
it
not?
a
I'll
shot,
give it a
see
shot, yeah.
what the chances I get. Nice.
Exactly.
Nice.
Yeah. So it's just for me, I would say like not giving up. I just
Nice.
want to like talk about that because I feel
Let's-
like towards the end of uni, I was very, very close to just throwing in the towel.
Wow.
But I feel like when you like don't give up, and always like, if you want to be somewhere, there are places that are great to work in, right? I feel London is one of those places.
Nice.
Like push for it, and
Nice.
and don't settle. Like you need, it's a daily grind, and there are going to be days where you feel like
I'm done.
I'm done.
And how did you deal with that? Like, because I also went through something similar where you apply, and then sometimes you don't hear back, or you reach a very advanced stage, and then at the end they tell you, and you feel you have to start from scratch for that company. Why that company? Why are you interested in, you know, it's a process. So what kept you going? Because it's not that easy, to be fair.
100%. And like I'd say what kept me going was having a circle of people who are also going through that.
Nice.
And I feel like it's very important, like especially when you're applying, surround yourself with people that are applying. Because like for example, the Twitter referral, he posted it on an NYU page that I wasn't even on. It was a friend of mine who was applying too that was like, "Oh, T, did you see this?" And I was
Nice.
like, "Yeah, that's how I." So it's a thing of like, I feel surrounding yourself with
Yeah.
people who are also going through it, and because they will give you comfort, they will give you reassurance,
Nice.
they will tell you, "Yo, before I got this, I went through this, and this, so it's normal."
Yeah.
And I feel like knowing that it's normal
Yeah.
will keep you pushing forward.
And I think one thing that is similar to this that helped me a lot is talking to my brother who was already here,
Yeah.
or some alumni from our university that are already here, telling me it's doable, it's not impossible to come here, because we didn't study in the UK.
Yep.
So that makes it a bit harder in terms of, because usually universities have this link with these companies where you apply. It's smooth process, right?
Yep.
For us in Abu Dhabi or Dubai, if we wanted to get a job there,
Oh.
I'm assuming it wouldn't have been a
Yeah,
very
it's
difficult
very
process.
straightforward, yeah.
So yeah, I think this is a great tip, which is the people that are going through the same thing, and also the people that have made it and are there, build that kind of community around you and try to push yourself and say, I will do it with these people, and I will do it like these other people did it.
Yeah, big shout out to my brother too. Like he was probably my biggest motivation. So
yeah. Last question. I'm interested in software engineering. I wanna work in London. What is it? Let's say 2-3 soft hard skills that I should really have to be comfortable when I'm applying to jobs as an international student that might give me this advantage.
I'd say working on your own projects and having a catalog of projects you've worked on, because like at the end of the day, it's going to be hard to demonstrate to a recruiter that you have the skills, especially just out of uni. But what you can show them is that you have the hunger, you have worked with these technologies on your own at a ground to the top level. So one of the things I feel like really helped me was when I was in sophomore year, I was working on my own startup. When I was like beginning of junior year, I was doing that too. So when it came to interviews, though I didn't have internationally recognizable experience, I had like experience that I could show them like, look, this is an app I built. This is what I built, on the back end. Like, this is what, technologies, this is what's transferable. And it also shows to them that, look, beyond, everything else, this guy has the skills, but also he's hungry.
Yeah, I'm putting in the effort,
exactly.
I'm putting in the work.
Yeah.
And especially with software engineering, you have GitHub. So if someone actually wants to go and see after the first round, like if a software engineer from that company that is in the recruitment process wants to see the code, it's there, right? Yeah. So it doesn't matter. You you did some code for your own project, you did it for the biggest company ever. If they see your code is structured, you understand the infrastructures, how systems work, etc., then they know he's a good candidate. Let us put him through the interview process.
And it's crazy because I've also been on the opposite side of that. Because 6 months, 7 months into Twitter, like I also started interviewing people.
Nice.
And seeing it from that perspective, it was like, anytime I saw someone that had a project of his, like, because the way they talk about it is very different from, when you come in talking about like a company, this and that, because like you can see the passion. And so that's why like, I always push like uni students, do your own projects, work on something that's very dear to you, because the way you talk about it, the way the amount of effort you put into it is going to be so much more, and it shows in interviews too.
Yeah, because I think also someone who's interested in software engineering can build an application for anything.
Yep.
So don't think, I'm working at a Twitter, I have to do something that's related to text and social media, etc. Build whatever you're passionate about, solve a problem that you're passionate about. And as you said, that's going to give you this push in the interview that, hey, I'm passionate about this. Let me just show what I worked on. Yep. And okay, if they're interested, they're interested. If not, I keep on going, I keep on working on my projects, etc.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, perfect. It was a pleasure having you, and thank you very much for sharing all the tips.
Pleasure coming. Thank you for having me.